with Saima, where we open new pathways toward lasting wellness. Today's guest is our amazing Richard Tierney, is on a mission to shift how we see mental health. Through two simple yet profound programs, Richard teaches children that the emotions aren't disorders but divine instincts, and also guides to release the weight of the past and returning to its rightful owner. So he's both radical and deeply human, challenging the very stories we have been told about healing. So, Richard, welcome to the show.
Saima, thank you for having me. I really love being here. I love your title, Healing Horizons. It means there's hope in the future. It's a lovely title you have here for your podcast. Yeah, I love being on here. Thank you
Yes.
very much for having me. And I really do believe that we have to take care of our children. They're the future of the human race. And I read a statistic last week that just shook me to the core that in this day and age, 290 million children between the age of 10 and 19 have been diagnosed with mood disorders or mental disorders. And that, I believe, is a shameful act against humanity and a sin against God.
That really makes sense, Richard. So I really wonder that, like, your children's program begins with a bold idea that feelings are not disorders but God given instincts. So, how did you arrive at this perspective?
Well, I think we've seen quite clearly, and science will tell you, that we are human beings. We're different to animals. The animals have three responses to danger: fight, flight, and freeze. And we have those three responses as well, but we have a fourth one. Now, when I was growing up, Simon, God was in the home. It was in the village, the community. You go to church on Sunday with the family. It was in the home. You learned about God was within you and you were a child of God. And because you were a child of God, He blessed you with all these wonderful virtues and love and gratitude. And also with acceptance that if He's in charge and He made the world in 7 days, He can take care of your trouble if you only give it to Him. So the fourth response is acceptance. When we experience any danger, we're meant to take action. So in the days of the Vikings, I like to share this story. It's very, very prominent to this story. The Vikings, in the days of Vikings attacking villagers, the villagers would break into four groups. Those who could defend would take up arms to fight the fight. Those who couldn't defend would take up the children and run for the hills and hide in caves. And the elderly, the infirm, the sickly, they would all play dead. They'd hide under the floorboards, hide in haystacks. They'd go and hide somewhere where they hopefully wouldn't be seen. And maybe the Vikings would pass by. And the fourth group would go into the church and pray for deliverance. And these were designated roles that each person had. You weren't a coward if you ran away. You weren't a coward if you weren't praying. You weren't a coward if you hid and played dead. Everyone had a
Hmm.
specific role to protect the preservation of the village, of the tribe. We've had that all our lives. We're meant to preserve the human race by any means possible. And some people are fighters, some people are lovers, some people are peace, and so on. And if it's your nature to run away, you trust your instincts and you run away. And what are our instincts? It's that danger. The warning goes up going, wow, wow, warning, warning, get out of here or run away or take up arms. There are feelings. Our feelings and our emotions tell us when there's danger near. So now there's no Vikings in our lives today, Simon, but if a child hears parents arguing, that can be a message to there's going to be trouble here. I've got to run away, or I've got to hide, or I've got to fight, or I've got to accept what's going on. Now, I'm too small to run away. They won't let me out of the house because I might run in front of a car in the road. So I can't leave the house. And I'm too young to fight and stop them from arguing. So all that's left to me to do is to freeze, to disassociate, is to hide in the corner and curl up in a ball and be very still and very quiet till the fighting's over. And if I know God, well, the child will think, I'll hand it off to God and hopefully He'll take care of things. He'll protect me through this. So we have these responses to danger, but the whole thing is we're meant to take some form of action. If we don't take action, or if we harm ourselves or another human being, this is the wrong way to go about it. So taking medication and suppressing your feelings is harming you, and that's not the way to respond. You hear your feelings that says to you, I'm scared, and then it tells you to run away, defend yourself, or to hide. And you take one of those three options. And they're perfectly normal responses to danger. Now, it doesn't matter that you want to hide and your therapist thinks you should be fighting. Your therapist has fight for their response. That's what they're going to do. But your response God gave you was to run away. And you have to trust that if God gave you the response of running away, you must run away every time.
That's really powerful, Richard. And the way you describe feelings as God given instincts instead of disorder changes how we think about them entirely. And it gives so much dignity to children's experiences. And I think that perspective brings a lot of hope to families as well who might otherwise feel overwhelmed.
I love listening to the professionals, so to speak. Ben Shapiro, I think he's a Jewish American psychologist, and then Jordan Peterson, and they talk a lot about children's rights and protecting children. And Ben Shapiro was talking about transgenderism, but he was saying that people shouldn't intrude upon children until they're at least 25 years of age, that they can get to know their feelings and setting boundaries, and get to know that at the age of maybe as an adolescent under the age of 10, your feelings act in a certain way. When you come into puberty, going 12, 13 to 16, your feelings take on another meaning, and to understand those at that age group. And then when you're 16 to 19, then 19 to 21, and then you're leaving the home, and adult feelings start coming into you. Our feelings are always evolving, and we have to allow children to experience the feelings all along. It shows that mental health professionals are targeting children as young as 10, that before they even have a chance to develop their feelings, they're been told their feelings are mental disorders and mood disorders, and they must medicate them, and they can't have these feelings, that they're bad, anxiety is bad, depression is bad. It's a terrible crime against the human race, because the problem is these 290 million children who have been diagnosed today with mental disorders, they are the future of our human race. They're the leaders we're hoping to depend upon in the future. And if they're destroyed at this stage, they won't be capable of leading the human race in 10, 20, 30, 40 years' time. We have a duty, you and I, on a podcast, and parents in a home, and teachers in a school, and wherever can get involved, we have a duty to protect children, to teach them that their feelings and emotions are okay. So if a child feels like throwing a tantrum, that's not a mental disorder. That's a child learning to set boundaries about their anger. If a child is really scared and cries their eyes out, they're not a big baby or a big girl. They're expressing, they're releasing the pent up, whatever sadness in their body, they're releasing it through tears. If they want to run away and hide, they can run away and hide forever. If that's what the body's something to do, they must trust their instincts. If they want to disassociate, they disassociate. But now mental health are telling people that dissociation is a mental disorder. It's not a disorder. Disassociation is one of the safest coping skills for a young child. When you're a young child, you're not allowed out of the house because you're too young. You might run in front of a car and get knocked down. You might get lost. You won't know your way back. So all we have, if there's any trouble, is to disassociate. We're there in a physical body, where we leave the body mentally and emotionally. We go into a dream world. We go into some fantasy dream world where we feel safe. And now the child's body might be beaten or abused by those around them, but mentally and emotionally it stays sane by leaving the body and going somewhere for 10 minutes where it just leaves the body. And then when it feels safe, it comes back into its body. The body might be battered and bruised, but its mind and its soul is intact, because it took the decision to disassociate from what was going on. A perfectly healthy response, but mental health professionals say it's a mental disorder. A crying shame against childhood, against the human race. These people should be, I don't know, they should be held accountable for what they're doing. It is atrocious that they would target children as young as 10 and not allow them to experience their feelings as a healthy response.
Completely. I completely agree with that. And you have explained that, beautifully crystal clear. So I really wonder now, that I need to know this from you, that have you seen a moment where a child's understanding of this truth completely shifted their behavior or confidence?
But I think the big problem is nowadays that the family unit has become so fractured. There's many homes where it's just the mother in the house, only the husband isn't there, the absent mother. Or it could be the case that both parents are working, and they're working to make ends meet, and they're not able to be there for the children. The children are very much left to be minded by a babysitter, or an aunt or an uncle or a grandparent, or it's not all that healthy, or they have to fend for themselves. They're left in front of TV, and they soak up TV, and they don't really know anything about setting boundaries. But if they grow up in a loving home, then they can learn that the feelings are healthy and just a feeling. So part of my program is I ask parents to start a practice where 1 hour a day, you pick the 6 most common feelings and emotions. So you have depression and anxiety, anger and fear, grief and loneliness. And then you write these out on a page. At the top of the page, you write out these 6 emotions. And then down the side, you write down fight, flight, freeze, and acceptance. And you explain to the children what each of these actually are. And then you say to the children, okay, if you experience anxiety, think of a moment when you feel anxious. Of one of these 4 responses, which one would appeal to you and why? And they say, I want to run away. Okay, flight. Okay, you want to run away. Okay, John, what do you want to do? I want to run to my bedroom. Okay, run to your bedroom. I want to run out into the garden. Okay, run to the garden. Oh, great. Now we're going to do a practice. And then the parents also say, when I was a child and I was anxious, I'd climb into the closet or I'd hide in the bathroom. And we partake of this practice with the children. So children feel that even the adults get anxious too. We say, okay, now for the next 10 minutes, we're going to choose one location and we're all going to go there and hide there. Where do you want to go? And they all volunteer to want to hide under the bed in mommy and daddy's room. And you all go upstairs and you go climb in under the bed. Mom and dad and the three children climb in under the bed and stay there for 10 minutes. And it's all got giggly for the kids. The parents are on the floor under the bed, hiding kind of thing for 10 minutes. There's no danger around, but just the pretend of it. And then you come down after, you sit around the table and say, how was that for you? And the parents start by saying, reminds me of my childhood. I always felt safe under the bed. And the kids then can open up and say, it felt like a safe place to go. I think I'll use this in future. And suddenly they're learning a coping skill. And you say, okay, now for the next one, depression, of these 4 responses, which one would you feel you like to do? Do you want to hide again? Or do you feel you like to fight? And they say, how do you fight? And I say, well, and then you explain to children all the different ways you can fight. I'm not talking about physical fighting, but you can report the problem. You can scream and shout. You can have a big cry. You can tell somebody what's happening. You can tell your teacher or your parents or whatever. And you let them know. They can always tell you when they're anxiety or whether anxious or depressed. We want to know, and let the child know. So then the child knows, I was very depressed last week when I saw my friends move away from move district or something. You kind of go, well, what would you feel like doing? I got to talk about it. And talking about it is a great way of taking action. And so you have to talk about how they feel. Well, let's arrange a trip to go and visit your friend. Can we do that? Yeah, we do that. And suddenly they're feeling that they've been heard and whatever. And that's another one. Then you go to the next one is grief. When granny died, it nearly destroyed me. And what do you want to do? Well, what's the acceptance? Your acceptance, we're going to ask God to take care of granny. Okay, how do we do that? Let's write a letter to God. Dear God, and love your name, and then put down, please take care of my granny, bring her to heaven, and do all the kind of stuff of feeling you're connecting with something, you're speaking your fears. At the end of it, the 6 exercises for 10 minutes each, you've done your 1 hour. The children have learned 6 different ways of dealing, or 4 different ways of dealing with 6 emotions. And then the next night, do the same thing again. Okay, we're going to go visit the same 6 emotions again. Let's try different things this time. And you build up a whole understanding of what the different responses are.
That's, an encouraging story, Richard. Like hearing how a child's perspective can shift so deeply once you understand that truth really shows the impact of your work. And I can see that it's theory. It's not just theory. It's something that actually empowers kids and helps them step into more confidence and peace. I can think that's really inspiring.
It's just to keep it as simple as possible. We're dealing with children. I remember Tom Hanks' movie where he said, talk to me like I'm a child. We have to keep this as simple as possible, but encouraging and nurturing of our children to say, it's okay to feel afraid. It's okay to cry. A grown man can cry. And then dad might say, I remember when I was only like 5 years ago, I was worried about you guys. You went somewhere and was worried that you weren't going to get home. And I didn't tell mommy, but I went into the bedroom and had a big cry because I was worried. And I was like 35 years of age and I was crying, a grown man crying because I was worried about you guys. And then maybe mommy would put her arms around dad and say, I didn't know that. Tell me in future. And the kids see this happening, kind of going, dads can cry too. It's okay. And they get this message that it's okay to cry. A man can cry. A daddy can cry. So I can cry too. And you just let them experience all the different ways of responding to your feelings. So when it comes to like flight, you can run away, you can leave the room, you can leave the house, you can leave the building, you leave your classroom, you can leave the school, you can leave the conversation, you can leave the relationship, you can hide behind the curtain, behind the couch, behind the table, behind the door. You can hide under the table, you can hide under the bed, you can hide in the closet, you can hide in the bedroom, you can hide in the garden, you can hide in the garage, you can hide behind the car, you can hide up a tree. You list all the ways that you can run away and hide. Give the children a choice of 10 or 20 different ways. And then fighting is, you can report that person. You can tell your teacher, you can tell your parents, your grandparents, your aunts, your uncles. You can tell your neighbors, you can tell your best friends. You can write an email, send that to the police and social workers. You can scream and shout, drawing attention to yourself, because bullies don't like people drawing attention to them. So you scream and shout out loud if a bully comes towards you. They have to walk away and someone can, what's happening? Billy is bullying me. Saima's bullying me. Rich is bullying me. And then the police, the teachers will take action. When you go home, tell your parents, Saima at school is bullying me. Richard at school is bullying me. Billy's bullying me. And then the parents take some action about it. Don't be afraid to take some action. You can stand up for yourself. You can just say no. That was a big push in the schools here about drugs. Children, just say no. Well, you can just say no to bullying or teasing or ridicule or anything. Just say no. just don't go back to class. If mom and dad say, go to school, I'm not going to school today. It's not safe for me. The teacher bullies me or the students bully me. Once suddenly open, the parents will do something about it. Teach the children, you can trust your parents to take action. No secrets. We will always believe you. Just take
Mm-hmm.
action. And that's the fight. And then the freeze is disassociate. Go to your dream world place. So when I was a child, I used to disassociate. I remember I say a child. I remember the last time I disassociated, I was 27 years of age. I was not in a good place mentally. I was coming out of addiction. I was really in a bad place. And I'd stopped I stopped my drinking and my gambling, but I wasn't a healthy individual. I was at home in my house. My parents came over to do an intervention, to say that you've got to really get some help, or to get out of this
Mm-hmm.
thing. And I'm inside my house watching John Wayne movie on TV. And I see my family at the windows, knocking the windows, saying, Richard, let us in, we want to talk to you. And I pull the couch out from the wall. I get down on my hands and knees, 27 years of age, in front of my family. They can see me, put my hands over my ears, put my head into my tummy, rocking back and forward, humming to myself. And I go to a place of fantasy in my head to escape the reality of my parents, my family are outside the window. My parents looking in thinking, he's gone crazy. But we can't go in case he goes over the wall. Let's go home. And they leave me there. And 5 minutes later, they're gone. I get up off the floor, shake myself off. I sit back on the couch and I watch John Wayne as though nothing happened. Utter insanity. But it kept me safe. To everyone else, that's utter insane. But in that moment, there was the only coping skill I had that I felt would work. And it kept me safe. I felt safe doing that. I never did it again after that. I realized now that people know my behavior, I've got to find new coping skills, like screaming and shouting or running away or crying or telling somebody, but no more now disassociate. So there were times when I was younger, when I was in 9 years of age and 14 years of age, I disassociated. But the last time I was 27 years of age. So anyone can disassociate. You can go back to bed and sleep. You can hide, curl up in a ball in the corner. You can shut down mentally and emotionally and physically. You can isolate. You can withdraw. There's so many different ways. And we can tell all the children all the different ways of doing it. It gives them a whole broad spectrum of what they can do when they feel dangered. If they're not stuck with fight, flight, and freeze, if we can break it into 20 flights, 20 freeze, 20 fights, and then the idea of God. Say, okay, God created the world in 7 days. If you're a Christian, granted, he can take care of your trouble in a moment. Just write a letter and say, God, here's all my troubles. Take them from me and give me 10 minutes of peace of mind. And voila, you get 10 minutes of peace of mind. It works so amazingly, beautifully, that it'll blow children away. They get to write a letter to God. They can give out to God and say, you dirty fecker, and you let this happen, blah, blah. I'm now giving you my
Mm-hmm.
troubles for 10 minutes. Take them from me and give me 10 minutes of peace of mind. Love, Richie. And suddenly you find you've got peace of mind for 10 minutes. It's hard to explain how it happens, but God comes in. If you ask him, he'll come in. If you don't ask him, he won't intrude upon your life. You have to learn to talk to God and to ask him to come in, because he won't come in if you ask, unless you ask him properly. There's right ways of talking to God and there's wrong ways. We have to teach our children the right ways. And once they do that, they're laughing. So I've written a book called How to Live Stress and Anxiety Free 24 hours a day. And it's for the young people of the world generally, but adults can use it too. There's about 10 different exercises you can do to learn how to treat your feelings and emotions as healthy coping skills. Teach you how to have a conversation with God, and teach you how to cast out the voices in your head. Teach you how to quieten the voice in your head, to slay your dragons, to cast out your demons. They're little, very simple exercises written for children that adults can do as well.
That for sure brings listeners a glimpse of hope and how simple things can, actually unlock resilience.
None of us are. We're not meant to be. We're human beings. We're meant to depend on each other. That's what it is to be a human being.
Yes, absolutely. Well said. Now, lastly, if you could speak directly to a child who feels misunderstood or overwhelmed right now, what words of hope would you want to leave with them?
Well, the first one is teach them to breathe. Most children have no idea how to breathe. So the first one simply is you breathe into your nose only. For the rest of your days, no matter what you're doing, you breathe into your nose, hold that breath for a moment, and then exhale through your mouth. And the children have got great imagination. So I want them to imagine they're breathing in the spirit, the energy of the universe. It's flowing into their nose, down into their mind, it's clearing their mind, it's touching their heart, their soul, gathering up all the demons in their soul. And then when they release the breath, they're throwing out the demons. Now they can release the breath with a sigh, a yawn, a cough, or a laugh. And kids love this. Kids go, ah. And the idea
Mm-hmm.
of it, saying you're breathing in energy, releasing your demons. Kids love this. And try a big cough, get it out from your soul, cough it out, and then a big yawn. And release all the anxiety with the yawn. And you're teaching these different practices for yawning releases anxiety. The cough is releasing the demons from the center of your being. And the laughter is saying, I'm in charge now. get out of my mind. I'm casting my demons out and I'm in charge. I'm slaying my dragons. So the laugh is great as a kind of affirmation that you're in charge. The yawning is very good for getting rid of anxiety, and the cough is extremely good for getting rid of the demons that are hidden away in your soul, in the dark recesses of your soul. I see we only have a minute left, so I'm trying to get this in as quickly as possible. Once the children learn to breathe, then they can relax. In any situation, just breathe into your nose, and all the stress in your shoulders, all the anxiety in your chest leaves you when you breathe into your nose. When we breathe into our mouth, we aggravate anxiety in our chests and the stress and the weight of the world on our shoulders. Just breathe into your nose. Ha ha ha. Yawn. Just breathe into your nose and then release your breath with a sigh, a yawn, or a cough, or a laugh, or a smile. Kids can do this. They take direction very, very easy. And once they do it, I see our meeting time is finished. Do we stop now or do I
Hmm.
keep talking?
No, yeah, I would love to hear some more from you.
Okay. Sorry, I thought the clock was up. Okay, so the idea is just we're trying to develop our children into strong, independent young people that go on to make our human race great. God created us to achieve greatness. You know, He created us to move mountains of despair for other people or for ourselves. You're a podcast, Saima. Putting on a podcast and carrying these messages to your audience offers them hope that they probably wouldn't have had if you hadn't got this podcast. You're doing a fantastic thing to be able to let people come up and speak to your audience and offer them some form of hope. So I'm praying that my words resonate with some parents out there, whether it's a single mother up against the hardships of trying to manage on her own because the husband isn't available for whatever reason, knowing how to teach your children not to be afraid, or to be afraid, but to take action, I should rather say, means it less pressure on the mother to handle everything. If you know your children now know when they're threatened that they're to take an action, it's one less thing for the parents to worry about. I'm not talking about the parents like neglecting the child, but it's a great thing for you to know that if there's danger, your children know what to do. If you're trying to fix everything and get everything sorted out and you've got 3 children to mind and all 3 children are screaming crazy, very hard for a single parent or even for 2 parents to cope with that situation. But if your children know, okay, we're feeling threatened, someone says there's a tsunami, we know to hide under the table. You know, don't stand in a doorway. They know what to do in a tsunami is to stand in a doorway, hide under a table, and they do that. And then the mother can look after the baby without worried about the older kids because the kids know what to do. So it really is very important we teach our children in any situation. First, they breathe gently through their nose. It stops them from getting anxious and panicky. When you breathe through your nose, the breath bypasses your chest, and that's where your anxiety and panic is stored, is in your chest. And then the stress and the depression, despair is stored in your shoulders, where you're carrying the weight of the unworld of the world on your shoulders. All the past is in your shoulders, like a big heavy weight in your back, and all the anxiety and panic of the unknown future is in your chest. So when your child can breathe into your, and parents and adults breathe into your nose only, the breath bypasses these areas. So it doesn't trigger the anxiety, the panic, or the stress or depression. And it flows to your tummy. And then you believe that when you breathe into your tummy, it goes into your soul, and that breath gathers up all of the bad thoughts and feelings in your soul, the things you plan to carry to your grave, shame, guilt, anger, whatever it is. And then you're going to cast it out with a big hearty cough. So you breathe in and you imagine all these demons trying to get away, and the energy is gathering them all up, and then hit your head back and do a big cough and throw it out of your body and feel the angels taking those demons away, and you got peace from those demons. And then the
Hmm.
voice in our heads are a terrible one. People have the voice in the head saying, "You're no good. No one loves you. You don't be any good. You don't deserve any happiness." You say, "Okay, God, take the voices from my head for 10 minutes." And you feel the breath coming in on your nose, going into your brain, getting up all these voices. And then with a big laugh, cast those voices out of your head. And children love these activities. Any kind of activity that lets them feel like they're doing something or being a part of some solution is a wonderful gift to give children. And so that idea of everyone hiding under the bed together, everyone hiding in the closet together, hiding up a tree, or another one is to go for an ice cream. Run down to your local village and buy an ice cream and sit on a wall and have the ice cream as a treat because you saved yourself. Go to the gym, go play football. All these different things you can teach children to do that are all healthy, taking care of themselves. So if you're an adult, go to the gym and work out and burn off all that fear and anxiety. Go down to the local shops and buy an ice cream or a soda and go somewhere you feel you're far enough away from the danger, and have that ice cream or soda, just relax and chill, and then walk back to the home. And if you feel it's safe, go in. If you don't feel safe, go back up and have another ice cream. Or I'm not talking about overeating or anything or creating a food disorder, but just allow yourself to take care of you. We teach our children to allow themselves to take care of themselves, then they suddenly realize, I don't have a mood disorder. I don't have a depression disorder. I don't have a mental disorder. Anxiety actually is my best friend. I've got to tell you,
Mm-hmm.
Saima, when I was in my family business with my parents and my brothers, my anxiety was a superpower. We would interview people or we'd have people come into the shop selling something. And I could tell straight away if they were honest or dishonest. Just in my anxiety, I knew whether you could trust somebody or not trust somebody. My parents and my family didn't see this. They thought the guys were talking right. And I say, no, he's fooling you. He's not telling the truth. In the beginning, they didn't believe me, but then they learned from their mistakes. And in future, we'd have interviews or we'd have something on, and they'd have me sit in. And at the end of the meeting, they'd say, how was that guy? And I say, he was okay. And then they go with him, or he wasn't okay, and they wouldn't take this. I had this instinct of my anxiety became a superpower for me. And in any walk of life I was in, I could tell if somebody was good or bad. I could read their vibe, their energy. I knew if they were healthy or unhealthy. And my parents then would see that if they had friends over and I felt uncomfortable, I would yawn and say, I'm tired. And my parents would let me go to bed. They knew instinctively that I didn't feel comfortable or safe around their friends. And they stopped bringing those friends back to the house. If I wasn't feeling comfortable around certain friends of theirs, they wouldn't invite them to the house again. They'd meet them out socially, but not in their home. So you learn that for many of us, our greatest feelings can be our greatest superpowers.
Beautiful explained, Richard. And you not only said that, like you expressed that through actions, and that's really remarkable. That was such a profound exchange, I must say. You reminded us that emotions aren't flaws to be fixed, but truths to be honored. So, listeners, Richard's, as we got to know that Richard's work calls us back to innocence, clarity, and freedom. Until next time, may you remember healing is not about becoming someone new. It's about releasing what was never yours.
Oh,
I'd love to have you back anytime because I know there's so much more we can learn from you.
Simon, I'd be honored to sit and chat with you. Really love the conversation. It was wonderful. Thank you very much for
Sure.
having me. And to your audience, I really hope you gain some hope from my words. It's a very simple program. It's not rocket science. It's written for children, but it's super for adults too. We teach our children that they're not mentally ill. They don't have a mental disorder. They don't have a mood disorder. Their feelings and emotions are okay. If you're afraid, if you're tired, if you're scared, if you're angry, if you're throwing a tantrum or you want to go and cry, do so. It's perfectly okay. You're okay with your feelings. Thank you, Simon.
You're warmly welcome all the time, Richard.